Welcome, everyone. I'm Elaine Clegg. I'm Interim Executive Director and Safe Routes to School Coordinator at Idaho Smart Growth. Elizabeth Allen is also an Idaho Smart Growth staff person. She is our program assistant, and she'll be here today to do all of the tech stuff for us behind the scenes. Thank you, Elizabeth. And also, if you have questions, I'm going to ask that you put them in the chat, and Elizabeth and I will both be watching for them so that we can take those that way. And we will be recording this today. We're going to put the recording up on the Idaho Smart Growth YouTube channel so that if anyone wants to go back to it later and view it, they can do that. We also have a bike rodeo guide on our website, and Elizabeth is going to put up a link in the chat that will take you to the page that has that. It's at the bottom of the page. If there's time at the end, we can go over some of that guide, but what's in there is basically the kinds of stations that you might use, how to lay out a course, and then some tools that you can use to help support your bike rodeo if you need it, like a certificate or a bike rider license or some fun things like that. So with that, we'll get going with the program today. And we have a small enough group that I think we're going to quickly go around and ask everyone to introduce themselves so we'll understand where you're from and who you are. So why don't we start with not our speakers. So why don't we start with Aaron Bacon, and then if you just pass it to someone else, and when we get through with everyone except the speakers, pass it back to me.
Good morning, I'm Aaron Bacon. I'm a Safe Routes to School program coordinator up in Moscow, Idaho. And my colleague, Kate Egan, is joining us today, and she's going to be in and out. She has a newborn baby at home. So if you ask her to introduce herself and she doesn't, it's because she's taking care of her little one. But I'm going to pass it off to Erin Billings.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Erin Billings. I'm a Safe Routes Coordinator in Sandpoint, Idaho. And I'll pass it off to Kate since I see she just came on.
I heard the tail end of Erin, but thank you for introducing me. And I work with, I'm not really sure what I'm supposed to say. This is my daughter, Alice. And we are excited to be here, but I work in Moscow with Erin.
And Jason, why don't you go ahead?
I'm Jason Wiley. I'm the Recreation Supervisor for the City of Sandpoint, and actually I work quite often with Erin Billings on things up here. So, and
Can you see another name? Joey?
Yeah, I'm doing it on a tablet, so it's a little hard for me to see everybody.
Okay. I'll go ahead and call somebody then. Tara Woods.
Okay.
Would you introduce yourself? Are you there? There you go, Tara.
Yes, I just had to unmute myself. Tara Woods, Recreation Supervisor for the City of McCall Parks and Rec Department.
Great. Welcome today, Tara. Can you see anyone to send it to?
I'm on a tablet. It's, yeah, same thing as Jason.
Colby, why don't you go ahead?
I'm Colby Spath. I am a coordinator for Treasure Valley Safe Routes to Schools.
Great to see you. Charlie Hill.
Hey, I'm Charlie, and I am also a coordinator for Treasure Valley Safe Routes to Schools. And I can pass it to, I'm just going to call somebody, Kiri.
Good morning. My name is Kiri Brown, and I'm from Lapway. and I am the project coordinator for the Lapway Community Coalition, a drug and alcohol prevention coalition.
Welcome, Carrie. It's great to have you.
Thank you. And I'm on a tablet as well, so if you want
Okay,
to pick someone.
so we will pass it now to Daniil Jose. You're muted, Daniil. Well, while you figure out your sound, we have someone on the phone with a number ending in 7688. If you could unmute yourself and let us know who you are, and we'll get your name so that we can get back to, we can call on you if needed. Is that Daniil? Daniil, are you 7688?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Nope.
Okay. Yes, we can hear you. Who is this?
Okay. This is Jordan Seward from Southwest District Health. I am one of the co-facilitators of the Caldwell Health Coalition and also do some coordination for our Fit and Fall Proof program. So thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for being here, Jordan. Rory McBeath. If you unmute and just introduce yourself and where you're from, we'd love to know that. You're still muted, Rory.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. I'm new to Zoom kind of thing, and I am actually Scott McBeth. My son is Rory, and I ended up having to get on the iPad. So we live in Pullman, Washington. Been on the Palouse for 14 years, and helped with the bike rodeos in Moscow for safe routes when they were first starting up. I think it was, I was trying to think of her name this morning. Brooke Lowry, I think, was running the safe routes, and she was really, really inspiring for me to do the same in Pullman. Our public works weren't really interested in that at that time. So now they definitely are to join Safe Routes. There's still not a Safe Routes organization of Pullman. But I have been doing bike education through Parks and Rec all summer long for about 10 years. So
well, thanks for joining us. That's great. We appreciate it. Sarah Harris. Yeah, there should be a little microphone with a line through it, and you click on that and it'll unmute. You didn't get it yet? Let's see. Elizabeth, can you unmute Sarah?
Oh, I think I just did.
Okay, there you go.
Should be working.
Oh, we're still having trouble hearing you, Sarah. Maybe you could put in the chat where you're from so we can get going here. Daniil, now you're back. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Daniil Jose, I'm with the Safe Routes to School program in Idaho Falls. I work with School District 91 and School District 93.
Great. And then Erin Truesdell, I don't think we heard from you yet.
I'm the Safe Routes to School intern in Pocatello, Tropic.
Oh, great. We have a new program there. It's great to meet you. Okay, well, with that, did everyone get a chance to say hello? Thank you for joining us. I'm now going to turn the mic over to the police chief of Emmett, Idaho, Steve Kunka. Steve hails from Montana, right?
Yes, I do, yes.
And so he thinks Emmett is really a wonderful place because it doesn't have a lot of snow and cold like he's used to, and really took up the call to start getting the kids there educated about how to ride their bikes safely. So With that, go ahead, Chief Kunka. Welcome.
All right. I also did some living in Shatter, Nebraska, where my daughter was born. She was born during a time where the snow was so bad there, we weren't even able to leave the hospital for 2 days. She has since have forgotten those times and has lived here in Emmett most of her life, and now goes to the University of Idaho, up where a lot of you are up in the Moscow area. And she is super wimpy. You would not know she grew up in Nebraska or that her mother and father grew up in Montana, because she is, oh boy, Moscow's weather has really got her down. So, but she loves going to college there, even though times are really different right now. But she is enjoying that. And I'm a huge University of Montana fan, and so I used to not like Moscow, Idaho, but now I do, and I even have an Idaho hat, and yeah, it's a little bit strange for me, but anyways, thank you all for being here. I have had the opportunity to be able to have some bike rodeos. The reason it's been so important to do that here in Emmett is because, like everywhere else, we are growing quite rapidly. Because of that growth, we have and are going to have some changes in our roads. We currently have a lot of traffic beacons that are brand new to our area, and a lot of children aren't sure of how to run those traffic beacons on or off of their bike. And pedestrians and also people driving vehicles aren't sure how to react to those. So we have had to do a lot of education inside of the schools. And even at these bike rodeos have been able to give us time to talk about some of the additions that we've added to our community. Another thing that we're going to be having and adding next year are the roundabouts. And this will bring a new dynamic to our roads, and how people not only drive in cars, but pedestrians and bicyclists will have to navigate those. So these bike rodeos kind of open up that opportunity to be able to talk about those things that are going on in our community. It gives us the opportunity to do that. So they're good for that, along with the obvious teaching kids bike safety and such. They also give you the opportunity to discuss some of that stuff that's going on in your community with the kids and with the parents. So that's a good way of doing that. Last year, prior to COVID, I had the opportunity, so 2019, to have 2 bike rodeos. Both of them were significantly different. One of the main differences is that I had never ran one before the first time. And the second time, I had a little experience behind me. And as all of you know, that obviously helps out. The first bike rodeo that I had was at our Youth Appreciation Day, which is a day where we take over a very large area in our community. It's the sport island where a lot of events happen. And I was able to have this bike rodeo far away from that main event. And I bring that up because it was very beneficial to have that, because the kids, instead of having a huge line, all wanting to just go to the bike rodeo, it was one kid at a time, and they kind of trickled in. And that was very beneficial to have it that way, especially for my first bike rodeo, because I was able to do things slowly because I wasn't super busy. I know that later we'll talk about how now they do suggest that you have smaller groups at a time where you bring them in because of that purpose also. So I was able to, during that time, that first bike rodeo, the focus was to give bike helmets that an organization inside of our community had donated those to our project and had purchased them and then gave them to us. We were able to give out over 80 helmets, I believe, that first time. Another thing that was original to that bike rodeo is that it was out on our sports complex, and normally during that event, kids wouldn't bring their bikes, so I provided bikes. I had a small bike, a medium-sized bike, and a large bike. That brought some challenges because those who remember riding bikes, we always want to ride the larger bike that we probably shouldn't be on, and we always want to take that as a challenge, and that's, you know, we're a bigger kid if we have that bigger bike. So that was, I had a lot of kids who wanted to ride a bike that necessarily didn't fit them. Another thing that I did not think would happen is, if you can believe it, I actually had kids who were in the middle of the demonstration of the bike rodeo itself, riding a bike, and I would hear their parents saying that, from the cheering, saying, "Good job, try again. I know you've never ridden a bike before, but you can do it." And I couldn't believe that they actually were allowing to their children to ride a bike, and they hadn't before. And that's not obviously why I was there, is to teach them how to ride a bike. So those were some challenges that I didn't think that would happen, that did. But of course, we learned from those. Another thing is it's super important to have as many cones as possible. You know, it may seem to be obvious that the kid needs to turn left or right or where they need to go, but it's not so obvious if you've never ridden the course before. So that's another thing that I have gotten, is I've gotten more cones for the next bike rodeo that I have, because I see now how many you really need to have to be able to map that course out appropriately, so the kids can understand exactly where they're going and what they're supposed to be doing. That first rodeo, the things that I had in the course was a stop sign. When we were at that intersection, we discussed what we should be looking for, who has the right of way, and those kind of things. We also discussed hand signs at that time: left turn, right turn, stop. And then they would take a turn, and I'd have them go into an S curve. So they kind of learned how to navigate their bike in a slow manner to take current turns. And then they would come back up to a stop sign, and then I'd let them put on the gas, so to speak, and drive fast for about, it was maybe 20 feet, maybe 25 feet. The first couple bikes I ran next to, until I realized that was kind of dangerous for me, because I was getting ran into by the kids on their bikes. And then also to have a hard stop at the end. So those are the things that I taught the kids in that first rodeo, and some of the challenges that I had in that first bike rodeo. The second one was similar, except for they were allowed to bring their own bikes to that. And that was beneficial, because they were used to riding those bikes. And it also, that one was more in the middle of the event, so the things were around me, so it was a little busier, but still not too bad. It still was enough. I just had myself and one other officer at both of these events, and we were able to do the two different things. These events are great for public relations. Kind of like I started out with saying, is that it gives you the opportunity to talk to them about some of the changes that are happening inside of your community as far as traffic goes. There's lots of questions out there to all the different things that are going on the roads, and the different markings and the different signs, and why are you doing this, and why haven't you fixed that? Although challenging, it's important to have those opportunities to talk to the public about it. Another thing is to give your officers the opportunity to be involved in something that's positive and that is outside of the enforcement realm. Sometimes my officers don't get those opportunities to be able to communicate with the public and with children in a positive manner. So it's very good to have the opportunity to do that. And the bike rodeo definitely gives that opportunity.
Well, thank you. Anything more you'd like to tell us?
No, I don't think so. I've been working with Idaho Growth for it seems like years, but I suppose we've been working together for a year and a half or so. And we've done different things inside of our community. They've helped us get a walking path that, again, is another challenge, another thing that the communities wasn't used to. They've also helped us with some demonstrations on some curb extensions and such. And not that the public had a 100% positive outlook on that, but it was really good that the public did give their input on it, and I really appreciated that. that we got the public more involved with determining how and what we should be doing. The roundabouts that are coming about here in 21, that was presented to the public probably, boy, it's been at least 5 or 6 years, and the public didn't give a say. They were given the opportunity, but they didn't take advantage of it at all. And now, of course, the public is saying, no one ever asked us what we thought. Well, we did ask you, and you didn't say anything. But this, the demonstration that we did, the public did speak, so it was good to have that.
Great. Well, I will open it up for questions of Chief Kunka, if anyone has any.
I have a question. This is Mari Barton from Rexburg, Idaho. I do not have an affiliation with any of the school districts or anything, but I do have a handicapped child, and I'm wondering, a question for the officer, if that could be arranged for physically disabled if they are able to ride a bike.
Thank you, Maury. And I just noticed that we didn't get you an opportunity to introduce yourself. So thank you for doing that.
No problem, Elaine.
Okay, Chief Kunka.
You know, I've never thought about that, but yes, if they were able to ride a bike and obviously bring their own bike, I'd imagine it'd be really important to be familiar with their own bike.
Would that be out of the comfort zone of the police officers?
No, I don't believe so at all. No, that would be good to have that opportunity to do that. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And Lisa, if you have any comment on that one, feel free to pipe in. I know you've dealt with a lot of children who have various challenges.
For our program here in the Treasure Valley, our partnership will be with the adaptive program at the city of Boise, where there are adaptive bikes available if students don't have them. We do work with a couple of elementary schools here that do bring in adaptive bikes for their kids. We've had some tandem bikes with children that are blind. We've had children that are on tricycles that are strapped to them for different kinds of abilities. So it's something that we've been shown a picture of, and we're trying to work with that, and COVID's here. So I think Erin's got something to share about that too.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that we actually purchased an adaptive bike a couple of years ago, and we do bring it, I don't know if you can hear me, I've got my microphone in a weird spot, sorry about that. We do bring it to our rodeos and our events, and we have it on hand. And then something else that I've done is I reached out to our Gritman Medical Therapy Solutions, and they actually run a bike camp. And so I started working with them to teach the kids about traffic and, you know, hand signaling and, you know, navigating kind of our system here in Moscow. So there's lots of opportunities for handy-capable kids, and we always want to make sure to include them.
Thank you.
I did notice the chat, and it discussed the height of the cones was a question. That is a great question, and I never thought about it until I put those larger cones out there and noticed what hazard it was causing. So the ones that I have been directed to use, and actually the organization that purchased the helmets actually purchased these for me, they're more of the discs. And so it's not a cone, it's the discs that have the hole in the middle of them. And they're easy to purchase, they're not very expensive, and very easy to store also. So that is the ones that, and I want to say that Elaine's the one who maybe directed me towards that, or maybe I watched some of your videos and I noticed that the discs were used in that. I can't remember, but I believe that that's where I had gotten that idea.
Officer, is that the black disc at the bottom with the hole in the middle and a pipe up or something? No.
No, they're just a little plastic orange ones. They're just a little, they're very thin plastic and they're orange in color.
Would officers know what we're talking about if we said that? Told them?
I will try to get a picture of them and show them to you before we're done, Maury. How's that?
That'd be perfect. Thank you, Elaine.
And I will note that we also have some 18-inch cones and a few 36-inch, and we use those to mark out the space, but not to mark out the course. And it brings attention to the rodeo space if you have a few of the larger ones as well. And I know the chief uses those.
Yep, that's correct. Yep, I do use those for that purpose also. Yep.
Thank you. That's
Any
something
other
that I would never
questions?
have thought of.
Thank you. And
yes, and oh boy, I'm not going to try that last name, but yes, the soccer discs. That's correct. Yep, those are them.
yeah, they are. Okay. Other questions for the chief? Well, I have one, Chief Kunka. I was intrigued that you were so willing to just go ahead and try this without ever having done it before. And I think that's, there you go, Jason, thank you. You've got it. So look at Jason's picture. That's the little disc. And you can order them 50 at a time. Chief, I know there are a lot of folks who are hesitant to try things because, gosh, they don't know and don't know what to do. But in my talking to you, not only were you willing to try it, but as soon as you tried it, you learned something and made the next one better. And regardless of not having experience on the first one, I think you felt like it was a success for the community. Could you talk a little bit about that? Because I think some folks have trouble getting people willing to give things a try.
Well, I guess what I can tell you is not only am I the police chief in this community, I'm also a father. My wife was a school teacher. And because of those two things, I've put myself into many different situations. I'm in the classroom as much as I possibly can still, but during that time when my wife was a teacher, I was there a lot. And so I became comfortable around children and in that teaching environment. And I think that maybe that's why it makes it easier for me to try things that involve kids, because to some people, teaching children is kind of intimidating and it seems to be a difficult thing to do. So I think it does take a person, maybe an experienced person in that realm to be able to have that experience. And that's why I feel like I'm okay with trying new things, because I've experienced it for so many years that I'm comfortable in that. But yes, I've even had my officers who aren't comfortable come out there and help me with that. And eventually they'll be the ones in charge of those type of events. But these first couple of ones I have taken the reins on and I've kind of been in charge of them. But eventually they'll run those also.
Thank you. That's great to hear. Other questions for Chief Kunka? Well, with that then, I think we will move on to our next presenter, Lisa Brady. For those of you who don't know Lisa, she runs the Safe Routes to School program in the Treasure Valley. It includes both Ada and Canyon County. She directly oversees the program in Ada County with 2 other staff people and does many activities during the year, but has really I think amped up her game and the Treasure Valley's game and bike rodeos in the last few years. So I'm really excited to let Lisa bring to you the things that she's learned and also talk about ways that they've adjusted because of COVID and what of those things she might carry forward. Lisa.
Great, thank you, Elaine. I'm glad to be here with everyone today. I'm going to share my screen really quickly here and bear with me as we all have to learn how to do these things really quickly. Can everyone see my slide?
Yes.
All right, perfect. So first of all, what a year it has been for us adjusting in Safe Routes. I've been with the program for 7 years, just almost 8 years in the Treasure Valley. And we have had some major shifting that we've done for our bike rodeos. We are a school-based bike rodeo program versus a community-based program right now. And so we've been used to doing much different types of rodeos. And that means that we were doing a station-based rodeo with switches. We had between 5 and 6 stations and a whistle and our bullhorn and about an hour to do all of those things. And we have had to make a significant switch because, as you can see on my slide, we might have up to 75 kids, and that's our top that we would ever like to do. We have gone over that with some of the schools bringing the whole entire school out for an after-school rodeo, which is always challenging. We are usually at the school one day for a few hours in a normal situation. And our students learn basic road rules about how to handle their machines, but we do it in a very fast-paced environment. And I wrote fast-paced environment. I want you to keep that in mind. I think that the value that we've brought for the community over all the years that this program's been in place since 2007 is an expanded awareness of how to ride, at least an expanded awareness of children being out there and doing things. I hope that people are getting better at paying attention. We definitely have had a few incidents in our community in the last 2 weeks that are heartbreaking for all of us. So we have much more work to do, but I think that we bring a great value from a perspective of just making sure that people are visible. So let's talk about 2.0 Bike Rodeo. What has changed for COVID besides everything? Well, for us, we were trying to find meaning. We had bike camps and bike rodeos all summer long where we were working with the YMCA summer camps. And we had bike rides and we tested out the only thing that we could do, which was a parking lot rodeo where nobody was standing around and everybody was away from each other, and then we would go on a long bike ride. And we did that over the whole summer, June, July, and August, once a week, and had a ton of fun with a lot of different kids and learned a lot in the process about how we could transfer this knowledge to our school-based bike rodeos. And so starting in the early part of September, we reached out and said, hey, can we do some bike rodeos? And many thanks to my team, Colby and Charlie and Alex, for what they've brought to this bike rodeo. We've had lots of iterations and lots of communication with each other, talking about we should do this or we should do that. And we are learning a lot about each other in this process as well. And I just want to say I appreciate them a lot. What we did is what's in front of you. If you can see this map, it's a little hard to see on a smaller screen, but we built a map for a flow rodeo, which is more like a community-based rodeo, and had always our little roundabout in the center of it or offset to the side or something like that, and actions off of each leg of the rodeo. This allows us to have people riding all of the time. It makes sure that we have social distancing in place, and it lets the students actually explore an adventure however they want to. And that can be confusing, especially when we're working with the younger students. When we were working with Roosevelt Elementary in October, we worked with, I think, kindergarten, maybe even pre-K, all the way to the 6th grade over a period of several days. And everyone does have a little bit of a different ability to pay attention to which direction you should go. So we have arrows and flat cones everywhere, but that doesn't always work. So we need to be prepared for that. The small groups were fabulous because of the limitations in the classrooms themselves. We had groups up to 10, sometimes 12, many times 8. That was our experience over the summer as well. We had small groups of people. The students and ourselves are always masked when we're out there on the rodeos, and we required that. We also keep a good COVID care kit, and I will go over that in a minute. One of the things that I think is really important for doing something like this is surveying what your scene actually is and communicating directly with whatever you're working with, whatever property you're working with, to let them know you're going to use a really large piece of property. Our program in the past has been tucked into corners on the back playgrounds of schools or off to the side, and it's been challenging. And these rodeos that we're doing now are large, and we have a ton of space where we can really teach some great things. One of the things that we do in preparation for this rodeo is we send out a video that we've recorded on Loom, and that's a nice piece of software that the students and teachers can use, and it goes over the expectations of what we're going to do, what they should prepare for, and what they need to bring. And we encourage kids to bring their own bikes and scooters because they're most familiar with those. That goes out to the parents in an email. If the teachers are willing to send it out, we can refer to it while we are actually doing the rodeo and ask questions, and it helps us with our safety talks and that kind of thing. I want to reiterate on the cones. Flat cones are the best for this kind of thing because it's chaotic. We have flat cones and cut in half tennis balls, and we use our short, harder cones and our taller, harder cones to mark out different places on the course where turns might need to happen or entrances or exits are happening. So be prepared to use everything that you have, plus you think, maybe I should get 50 or 100 more cones to really do it right. So what have we learned? We had a ton more time to teach kids actually how to ride a bike. For our Ada County program, the 3 of us were doing Bike Rodeo. We were not using any volunteers in our school-based rodeos, and we've done several since the beginning of the school year. And it's been significant for myself, having been with the program for so long, to actually see us able to take a kid who's longingly looking at the bike and wondering, can I actually do this, and really putting it into play. Our last rodeo that I participated in, we had some challenges with different developmental abilities, and it was really great to be able to work with that in such a small scale. Those were 50 minutes long. That's 50, so that's a short period of time, but it turns out we were able to manage a lot more in that amount of time with that flow rodeo. The kids loved it. So many kids wanted to come back and do PE again during the week, and maybe next week and the week after, which was really cool to see that. And the teachers really liked it too. Having talked to teachers for all these years too, I could see the light in their eyes much differently than what we were experiencing before. And I want to say the other lesson is be ready for anything. I always bring up anytime our Safe Routes Idaho team talks about making sure you have a first aid kit, make sure you have some water if you're doing it in the summertime, be ready for crying and some barfing. And also we used every single bike that we had access to. So at a certain point this fall, we received access to a van from our program sponsor, Valley Regional Transit. We're now able to haul 12 to 18 bikes with us, and that has made a huge difference for all of us. We bring also helmets for everybody, so we don't have to double up, and we bring spare masks and alcohol sanitizers and alcohol sprays to actually wipe down the bikes in between the class periods. So I'll stop there because I probably talked a little bit fast, and find out if you had any questions or if I was clear about that.
Here again, I just had a real quick question. I'm not sure if you can answer it or the officer, but you mentioned the flat cones. What is, and someone mentioned a group of 50. What's the cost of that? If I were to take this to a police department or whatever with information, I'm sure I'd be asked about that.
With quantity, you can really bring the price down. I think that if it depends, and there are many sources for them, but I would say we're less than $1 on some of our cones. Some of them are more expensive than that, but if you can get a quantity buy, and we've been buying them for many years, I would suggest buying them online from like a soccer supply, or I hate to say Amazon, but Amazon probably has the best price on flat cones from my personal experience.
Thank you, Lisa.
You're welcome.
Lisa, you stated that you held these during the summer months. Have you held some of them during the school year also this year?
So we did our summer-based rodeos from June to August, and then we started in our school-based rodeos at the schools in September. So we did rodeo late September, October, and then my team can remind me, I would believe we've done Morley Nelson, Hawaii Elementary, and Roosevelt Elementary schools since the beginning of the school year this year. And we were at each school about a week or, at least 3 days to accommodate the whole thing, and all day long. Much different than what we normally would do.
All day long during a school day?
Yep.
Wow.
So we're PE, basically. We're the PE
okay.
class. You come out and have PE with us during the school day.
I see.
Mm-hmm. The camps are really our favorite thing, though, during the summer, because we have, an all-day experience with them on an adventure on their bike after they've had the rodeo.
I saw the question about the size that was in the chat, and Colby responded to 2 basketball courts. I kind of envisioned actually using the entire campus of one of my schools to really keep it spread out. But I just don't know if that would be possible during an actual school day. On the weekend, I could do it because I could keep cars out of the parking lot and that, but it would be difficult to do during a school day.
Yes, and just on the size, we've recommended to people that they use whatever size space they get access to. Don't let size be a determinant factor. If you can't get a big space, you can make it work in a smaller space. Grade schools typically have, playgrounds that, like Colby said, have a couple of basketball courts, and those side by side work. Various grade schools have various sizes of basketball courts, depending on how much size they have. But I'll show you at the end a typical course layout for a non-flow rodeo, and in it we've said, from this length to that length, just depending on the size you have, and some of the stations you can leave out if there's not enough room for them. So don't let size, if you can't find a big space, don't let that stop you. Put it that way. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And
one more quick question. Any awards or certificates given to the kids after they're finished?
And I will show some of that. I don't know if these guys do that anymore, but go ahead. Lisa and Chief Kunka.
Chief, do you want to go ahead first?
Sure. Man, I know that we gave something out. Oh, I know what we gave out at the end. We actually had, I think there were tire pressure gauges that someone had donated to us, and we had given that to the kids. Oh, I know. No, I'm sorry. I don't know where I got that. They were locks. They were actual locks that we had, the police department had purchased. And we had given to the kids for them to lock their bikes up. That's what we had handed. So that was kind of like the award afterwards.
Did everyone get one?
Yes. Yes.
Wow.
For everybody. Yes.
And you probably wouldn't know a cost on that.
Oh, I know that my guy let him, do all that. I know he kind of flinched and didn't necessarily want to purchase them because they were kind of spendy. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And a lot of programs work with their bike shops or their sporting goods stores in town and see if they can get a wholesale price or if they can get part of a donation. Lisa, how about you?
I have gotten better with that. There are a number of organizations like Kiwanis that are willing to help out with these type of events. And if there is a cost, they are more than willing, at least in our community, to help out with that. So those are people to reach out to, especially during these times.
Great.
Well, just one more question when you're finished.
Maury, can we let Lisa answer first?
You bet.
Thank you.
You bet. You bet.
For our incentives, we let the kids, if they need helmets, they get to keep the helmet that they've brought or we've replaced with. And we do have funds to purchase helmets, so we will be looking for matching funds this year, a little bit different than we have been in the past. We have our little reflectors that we give out. And if we, depending on where we're working, if we're working with a bike club after school, we also have bike locks that we give out for kids in need. We purchase those from Amazon, and we do replacement seats and all kinds of little weird things, you know, just because of what we're working with. So in a community-based rodeo, we do have rodeo certificates. We haven't given those out as much because we don't do that kind of rodeo right now.
Yeah.
But they are available out there. And kids love stickers also. I'm inviting the police departments there and having the police at the rodeo giving out the little badge stickers. Those are fabulous. The kids are like, yes, I'll take 20, and then stick them everywhere. So.
May I speak now?
Yes, go ahead. You have another question.
First, thank you to the officer and also to Lisa. I just wondered if they allowed cheering or whistle blowing from the bystanders or the parents, or does that bother the children as they go around?
It doesn't bother our kids unless we're working with kids with different abilities. So if we have, and we will know that, we usually are warned by teachers so that we might be working with somebody with autism or something else is going on altogether. And the kids in the classes that we work with, if we have somebody with sensory issues, we'll see them doing that, the clicking or the silent clapping or other things. But I think the kids love being cheered on, honestly, when they're out there. It's fun.
Okay. Thank you, Lisa.
Yep.
Elaine, I think you're muted.
I'm muted. Sorry. Chief Kunka, did you have a comment on that one?
No, I agree with Lisa. It doesn't affect it. And I'm sure she has more to say, especially with the ones that are spread out. I would think that would be better also. Yes.
And I'll note this, I happen to have 2 grandchildren who are on the autism spectrum disorders spectrum. And with those kinds of kids, I think you just have to be really cognizant of what their ability to intake various sensory input is. And one of them does fine in group situations to a certain point, and the other one literally can't be in a group situation. So I think to Lisa's point, it's really important to know your audience. You have teachers or parents or others who can help you understand what challenges that particular student or child might have. Use those resources. Other questions for Lisa?
Yes, I had one more. Your map was awesome, and I saw all the different events going on in each quadrant. And of course, I have more questions about each one of those events, but I just don't think we have time to discuss all of those. So when you do share that map with us, can you also kind of explain what each one of those stations would? Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. It's whatever we make up to be fun, so.
Yeah.
But yes, I'd be glad to share that map, absolutely.
All right.
Other questions? If not, I'm going to go ahead and share a couple of things. So first on those cones, just quickly, as Lisa mentioned, Amazon has them pretty cheaply usually. The nice thing about getting the cones this way and getting the little strap on them is that they're easy then to carry around. So you can find those pretty easily. I'm now going to share another screen and talk about, if I can, whoops, if I can get down to my button. There we go. Can you guys all see that?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So here is a course layout. Sorry for the bad quality. I've been working from home, and I used to have direct access to my hard drive at the office, but lately it's been failing me. So this is a copy of a PDF. But this is a layout that is in that guide that is online, that in the link that Elizabeth shared with all of you. And it does tell about the various stations, about the amount of space that you might need for them, and it offers at least one way to lay out. Now, this was done before COVID, so it does not have a flow rodeo. I'm going to be working with Lisa to develop the same kind of a map for a flow rodeo that will outline some of these. In addition, in that guide, then, to Chief Kunka's point, we talk about the various things that happen at each of the stations. And so in this case, we've got a, this is the classroom instruction if you do it, and pre-ride instruction, which you can do, you know, either via video like Lisa's doing it today, or you can do it in person, as long, you know, in today's world, if you can stay socially distanced, you can do it that way. I'm going to stop sharing that and share something else. Sorry about that. I thought I had a, here we go. And then once you get to the bike rodeo itself, the way that we've talked about bike rodeos, there are these, let's see, are you seeing this? Yeah, okay. These 7 different activities. One is a turtle race, which means can you balance and ride slowly? One is controlling while you're zigzagging. One is braking and learning how to stop. One's circling and turning. One is scanning and one hand control. And Lisa actually invented this one where you have buckets or something where you can have kids toss rolled up newspapers into those buckets. And what it does is teach them to let go of the handlebar with that one hand so they can make that toss. And that would be the same as doing a signal. And so it teaches them to be able to control the bike with only one hand, which is kind of fun. And then a rock dodge or obstacle dodge. Often when you're riding on road, you end up with a rock and you've got to get around it. And if you can learn how to do that without losing control, hopefully you don't end up in front of a car when that happens. And then we set up a section where they have to yield or do a stop sign or learn some of those kinds of controls. And then in terms of, sorry to switch back and forth here, but I thought it'd be helpful to see these various things. Okay. In terms of certificates, if you are interested in them, we've developed, you know, the one on the left is a full-size certificate you can hand out. You can have the either Chief Kunka sign it or have the principal at the school sign it or whoever. It has their name on it. The one on the right, we developed this so that you could print these on cardstock, print them front and back, and then cut them out, and then they end up being the size of a driver's license. But it just says, you know, you've created this, you've successfully completed our bike safety course, and now you're a licensed bike rider. So that one's kind of fun for kids. If you're interested, again, those are available on our website. We also have some resources if you do have opportunity to be in class beforehand. You can teach them the parts of the bike. You can teach them about the hand signals. You can teach them to identify the various road signs. You can do all of this on site as well, but this is just another way to do this. So just share some of those resources. I'll stop sharing now and just open it up for both discussion and other questions that folks might have.
Yes, Elaine, I'm sorry to keep doing this, but I just wondered, are all of those things that you mentioned, the skill sheet that you just showed and the license, are those all on your website?
Yes,
and
they are.
What is that website? Can you just...
At the very top of the chat, can you go to the very top of the chat? Elizabeth put that website in there.
I can also email it to you, Mari, if you'd like.
That
Okay.
would be perfect, if you wouldn't mind. I'm not finding it at the top. It might be at the
Okay,
bottom.
we'll send an email after the webinar for everyone who registered, and we'll make sure and put those resources in there.
Thank you.
Thank you. It looks like Erin had a question, and now I'm trying to get back down to it. Lisa, so the question, Erin, do you want to talk about it, or do you want me to just read your chat?
Yeah, I can talk about it. We wanted to have like a parent and driver education booth at our bike rodeo because it's going to be a weekend event. So I was just wondering if there's any good or easy to read resources for like driver, pedestrian, and bike laws in Idaho.
Well, so I guess I'll start with that. Idaho Smart Growth also has another program on bicycle and pedestrian safety, and we're in the process of putting together an online list of various videos that talk about those drivers, yeah, the things for drivers as well as pedestrians and bikes. We also are running a game every week. So Idaho Transportation Department created a deck of cards a couple of years ago with what's called the rules of the road, and there's 52 of them. So it's easy to run one once a week. And those are rules that are a little bit different in Idaho than maybe in other places specific to Idaho. And so Elizabeth can maybe talk a little bit more about that. She's actually running the rules of the road game today, this year for us. Elizabeth, do you want to tell everyone about that?
Oh, sure. So every Tuesday we have a new question come out, just talking about the different rules of the road. I can add the link. And then next year we're going to be updating that and then creating a library of how to navigate different situations as a driver, pedestrian, and cyclist. So I'll send out those details. But the quiz covers all different types of topics that, based on state law and some other resources and just best practices.
And then Lisa, I see you have a comment.
Yeah. So we've done quite a bit of quizzing and that kind of thing at some of our community events where we're just tabling. And we have a little prize wheel that's built out of a bicycle wheel, and it's in a stand, and it's we spin it, and it's colored in red and yellow and blue. And we have a red, yellow, and blue basket. And kids love it, but it turns out that parents also want to get stuff for free, and anybody who comes up and wants to take a pencil or a sticker has to answer the question. And I think taking questions and information straight out of the driver's manual is fun. It's really fun because people forget. And we've made up some question and answer sheets just to help our own selves. But we've got that little prize wheel. Other things that I've done for tabling events when I want to talk to both bicyclists and drivers are get printed out large scale different kinds of bike symbols or the bike law or a giant stop sign, and then put a little notation of what is the Idaho stop law, or just pick a question and decide what you want to share about that. I have a ton of experience with that particular kind of tabling because I love doing that. So, and I know that I've had my computer on the table before in some places, and I haven't been able to show the video as much as I would like to because I might not have downloaded it. You know, I just try to rely on personal tech sometimes, and it doesn't always work out. So, you're still muted.
Yeah, I keep muting so I don't interrupt people and then forget. Could you make those resources available, and then I could send them out, the list of questions that you often get? I think that would be something people would like. And Sarah, it looks like you shared in the chat a bicycle commuter guide, which can be helpful. So it is 11 o'clock. Some of you I know need to leave at 11. We are willing to go forward. I wanted to get the basics of this in by 11. So if you do need to go, you're welcome to. But if you want to stay, we'll continue to answer questions or offer advice on where you might get resources. So wanted to just insert that so that if anyone does feel like they need to leave now, don't feel guilty about that. We knew that some people did need to do that. So Maury, you're muted now. We needed to mute you because your phone was ringing. So if you'll unmute, go ahead.
Yes, I just wanted to thank everyone for all your information and your time spent on this. Thank you.
You bet. We're hoping to do more of these. So do stay tuned and we'll try to, we're going to offer one of these every quarter over this next year. I don't know all the topics yet, but as soon as we find that out, we'll let people know. Other questions for Lisa or Chief Kunka or for me? Well, not seeing anyone. I would offer this as well. Because of COVID, Idaho Smart Growth does have right now a little bit of a store of stuff. So if any of you are planning to do a rodeo soon, I have access to some reflectors, a few helmets. I can't supply a whole town, but I have helmets for a rodeo or two. I also have some bike lights that we were able to get and a few other things. So if anyone is planning to do a rodeo soon and they would like some of that, let me know and we'll see if we can get some of that to you. Anything else?
One last thing I have to say is just remember, just get out there and try it, and you will find out what works and doesn't work inside your communities. And going to these type of webinars is really helpful because a lot of you have tried those things too. So thank you so much for providing us the opportunity to be involved with that.
Bet, thank you. Well, if everyone can turn their video on for just a minute, we can at least see each other, and whatever little human touch we can manage during this awful time, we could smile at each other and wave. And I wanted to thank all of you for joining today, and hope you have a really good holiday. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It was very helpful. I really liked the appreciation day and the games that you shared. That was very helpful.
Great, great. Well, we'll keep sharing. Anything else? Thanks again. We'll thank you to our speakers. Thank you, Chief Kunka. Thank you, Lisa. Great information.
Thank you. Take it easy.